If we pause and reflect on the deepest layers of our friendships, one of the most powerful yet rarely voiced truths is the gratitude and admiration we feel for our closest friends. We often carry these feelings quietly, tucked away beneath jokes, shared memories, or the casual rhythms of daily life. We may express our appreciation in subtle gestures, a text, a smile, or remembering a small detail, but rarely do we fully articulate the depth of what we feel. And yet, these unspoken sentiments are the foundation of enduring connection. Naming them, consciously and deliberately, has the power to transform ordinary friendship into something profoundly sustaining and meaningful. Gratitude in friendship is more than a polite acknowledgement. It is a recognition of the ways another person enhances our life, shapes our understanding of ourselves, and provides emotional refuge. Think of the friend who listens when no one else does, who celebrates your victories without envy, who challenges you when you need guidance, or who simply remains present in moments of quiet struggle. We often take these gestures for granted because they occur so consistently, so naturally, and because the most meaningful acts of friendship rarely demand recognition. Yet the quiet accumulation of these moments, the unwavering presence, the intuitive support, the shared laughter, forms the emotional scaffolding of intimacy. Admiration is intertwined with gratitude, but carries a different energy. It is the deep acknowledgement of qualities in our friends that we respect, aspire to, or find inspiring. Perhaps it is their resilience in the face of difficulty, their ability to remain compassionate under stress, or their clarity of thought and moral courage. We feel admiration for these traits, often quietly, because expressing it can feel vulnerable or unnecessary. We may fear that articulating our admiration could seem excessive, sentimental, or even awkward, yet leaving it unspoken means withholding a gift that could enrich both the friendship and our own emotional awareness. The silence surrounding gratitude and admiration is partly cultural and partly relational. Many of us have been conditioned to undervalue verbalized appreciation, treating it as optional or superfluous. We assume that friendship, by its nature, does not require constant acknowledgement, but the human psyche thrives on recognition. The friend who is aware of how deeply they are valued feels seen, not only for the acts they perform, but for the person they are. Conversely, leaving gratitude and admiration unspoken risks reducing friendship to a transactional exchange, time spent, favors given, or shared experiences. Without verbal acknowledgement, the emotional depth remains implicit, vulnerable to misinterpretation or oversight. Naming our gratitude and admiration does not require grand gestures or elaborate declarations. Simple, intentional acts, saying, "I truly appreciate you being in my life," writing a note that acknowledges their support, or sharing a moment of reflection on the qualities you admire, can be transformative. The act of articulation is itself a form of emotional honesty. It allows us to connect more fully, to bridge the gap between feeling and expression. And in doing so, it often encourages reciprocity. Friends who feel valued are more likely to offer the same recognition in return, deepening the relational bond. Furthermore, expressing gratitude and admiration strengthens self-awareness. When we reflect on why we value a friend, we also uncover what we hold dear in relationships, what qualities we aspire to, and how we wish to show up for others. It becomes a mirror, revealing not only the virtues of our friends, but also the values and aspirations that shape our own relational life. This conscious reflection elevates friendship from habit and routine to a deliberate, emotionally rich practice. The timing of expressing these sentiments is also significant. Waiting for a milestone, a birthday, or a crisis to communicate appreciation may delay opportunities for connection. Small, consistent affirmations in ordinary moments, after a conversation, during a shared laugh, or at the close of a challenging day, have a cumulative effect, creating a rhythm of acknowledgement that becomes woven into the very fabric of the friendship. Over time, these repeated gestures of gratitude and admiration create an emotional bank account of trust, safety, and intimacy, which both parties can draw upon in moments of need. Ultimately, the silent gratitude and admiration we feel for our best friends are not trivial or incidental. They are central to the experience of deep, sustaining friendship. When we bring them into the open, we validate the person we care about and strengthen the emotional architecture of the relationship. The friendship transforms from a pattern of shared experiences into a consciously nurtured bond, one in which both parties feel recognized, valued, and inspired. So, if you want to honor the hidden truths in your friendships, start by naming the gratitude and admiration that lives quietly within you. Express it clearly, deliberately, and without reservation. Tell your friend what you appreciate, highlight the qualities you admire, and allow yourself to be present with your own emotional acknowledgement. Because it is only when gratitude and admiration are spoken aloud that they fully take root, transforming ordinary connection into a friendship that is not just enduring but profoundly nourishing for both hearts. Even the strongest, most cherished friendships carry quiet undercurrents we rarely acknowledge, the subtle feelings of jealousy and comparison. These are emotions we often feel but hesitate to voice because they seem shameful, unworthy, or even disloyal. And yet they are natural human responses, deeply tied to our need for validation, recognition, and belonging. To understand the friendships we hold closest, we must explore the silent impact of envy and comparison, and the ways these hidden feelings shape our perceptions, interactions, and ultimately the depth of connection we experience. Even in the closest, most cherished friendships, there is often a hidden layer of tension, the insecurities and fears we carry but never voice. We rarely admit to our friends that we sometimes feel uncertain about our worth, our place in their life, or the depth of their affection. These anxieties are subtle, quiet, and easily masked by humor, casual conversation, or routine interactions. Yet they exist in every meaningful relationship because friendship, like any profound connection, touches the core of our emotional selves. To fully understand what we never say to our best friends, but feel deeply, we must confront the silent insecurities that shape our inner experience and, often unconsciously, influence the way we engage with those we love. Insecurities in friendship are rarely about the superficial. They are rarely, if ever, about whether someone likes the same movies or enjoys the same coffee. They emerge from deeper, more intimate concerns. Am I enough? Do I matter as much as they matter to me? Will they still care if I show weakness or fail in some way? These questions, unspoken and sometimes barely recognized, govern our behavior in subtle ways. We might overcompensate by being hyper-attentive, careful to please, or excessively supportive, masking our fears of inadequacy behind acts of care. Or we might retreat, creating distance to protect ourselves from perceived rejection. In both cases, the insecurities remain silent, yet they shape the friendship profoundly. One reason these fears go unspoken is the fear of burdening the other person. We hesitate to share the full weight of our anxieties because we worry it might strain the relationship, make us seem needy, or shift the balance of emotional labor. We tell ourselves that friendship should be effortless, that it is the space where joy predominates and problems remain secondary. Yet by silencing our inner doubts, we inadvertently prevent the friendship from reaching its full depth. Emotional intimacy grows not when we present ourselves as perfect or wholly confident, but when we allow vulnerability, even in the form of quiet, self-reflective fears. These insecurities also serve as mirrors to our inner world. Feeling anxious about our place in a friend's life, or worrying about being understood, is often less a reflection of the friend's behavior and more an indicator of our own emotional state. They point to areas where we crave validation, reassurance, or acceptance. By observing these internal feelings without judgment, we can gain insight into both our needs and our patterns of relating. This self-awareness allows us to respond to friendship challenges with clarity rather than letting silent fears subtly distort perception or provoke unnecessary tension. Acknowledging these insecurities does not necessarily require verbal disclosure at every moment, but it does call for conscious reflection and, when appropriate, careful communication. Sharing one's fears does not mean unloading burdens indiscriminately. It means creating intentional space for honest dialogue, saying something as simple as, "I sometimes worry I don't express how much your friendship means to me," or "I feel insecure about whether I'm as present as I should be," can open channels of understanding. When approached with care and authenticity, these expressions invite empathy rather than judgment and can deepen trust in ways that silence cannot. Interestingly, the unspoken fears we carry often coexist with acts of admiration and gratitude. We may deeply respect our friends' resilience, intelligence, or warmth, and simultaneously feel uncertain about our own adequacy in comparison. This duality is natural. It reflects the complexity of human emotion. We love our friends and value their presence, yet we sometimes wrestle with doubts about our contribution to the relationship or our significance in their lives. Recognizing this complexity allows us to approach friendship with humility and self-compassion, understanding that insecurity is not a flaw, but a human condition. In many ways, these hidden fears are essential to the evolution of friendship. They signal the depth of emotional investment, the fact that the relationship matters enough to evoke anxiety. When we navigate these insecurities with honesty, reflection, and empathy, we create relational space for growth. Friends learn not only about each other's strengths, but also about the tender vulnerabilities that define authentic human connection. Over time, this practice transforms friendship from a comfortable habit into a consciously nurtured bond, resilient under the pressures of life, change, and distance. Ultimately, the silent insecurities we carry in friendship are both a challenge and an opportunity. They remind us that even the closest bonds require care, attention, and self-awareness. They invite us to confront our need for connection and to articulate it thoughtfully. And they teach us that vulnerability, far from being a weakness, is a bridge to greater intimacy and mutual understanding. So, if you want to honor the hidden truths in your friendships, start by observing the quiet fears you carry, the doubts about your place, your worth, or your significance to your friend. Reflect on them honestly, and when the moment is right, share them with care and authenticity, because it is only when we acknowledge these insecurities, both within ourselves and within the context of our friendships, that we can move beyond silence into connection, empathy, and a friendship that is deeply sustaining for both hearts. Fear of vulnerability need not limit love. It can illuminate the path to profound and enduring friendship. Jealousy in friendship is rarely overt or dramatic. It does not always manifest as resentment or confrontation. Often it is a small, quiet awareness, noticing that your friend achieved something you desire, receives attention you crave, or shares experiences that feel out of reach. You might feel a pang when they succeed in ways you wish for yourself, or when they spend time with others and you are not included. These feelings are not inherently malicious. They simply reflect the human tendency to measure our own lives against those we value most. Because we care deeply about these friends, our emotional responses are heightened. The very bond that sustains intimacy also makes us more sensitive to perceived inequalities or shifts in attention. Comparison often operates alongside jealousy, silently influencing our sense of self. We observe what our friends achieve, how they navigate life, and what qualities they embody, and we measure ourselves against these benchmarks. Am I as successful, as resilient, as capable, as valued? We may wonder. These thoughts rarely surface in conversation, yet they affect our inner dialogue and sometimes subtly guide our behavior. We may try harder to impress, overcompensate in certain ways, or withdraw to protect our vulnerabilities. Without conscious reflection, these silent comparisons can distort the authenticity of our interactions, coloring them with unspoken tension or self-criticism. Yet these emotions, if acknowledged and explored, can be profoundly instructive. Jealousy and comparison act as mirrors, revealing the areas of our own lives where we desire growth, recognition, or affirmation. When we pay attention to what triggers these feelings, we learn about our own values, unmet needs, and aspirations. They are signals, not indictments, tools for self-awareness rather than reasons for guilt. By observing these emotions carefully, we gain insight into what we truly care about, and we can respond consciously rather than react unconsciously, reducing the risk of silent resentment undermining our friendships. Acknowledging these hidden currents does not require exposing every pang of envy to our friends. Thoughtful reflection and self-awareness often precede any conversation. Understanding the origin of these feelings, whether they stem from past experiences, personal insecurities, or relational patterns, allows us to respond with clarity and intentionality. In some cases, carefully sharing a subtle insecurity or expressing admiration alongside envy can deepen connection. I'm so proud of what you accomplished, and I have to admit it makes me reflect on my own goals. Such moments, handled with honesty and humility, foster empathy and authenticity, strengthening the relational bond rather than threatening it. It is also important to recognize that envy and comparison are often interwoven with love and care. Feeling jealousy does not negate the affection we hold for our friends. In fact, it often arises precisely because the relationship is meaningful to us. The intensity of our emotions, both admiration and envy, reflects the value we place on the friendship. By consciously navigating these feelings, we transform what could be a source of tension into an opportunity for personal growth and relational depth. Furthermore, addressing the silent weight of jealousy requires empathy for both ourselves and our friends. We must resist the temptation to judge ourselves harshly for experiencing envy, while also maintaining perspective on our friends' intentions and accomplishments. They are not the cause of our insecurities. They are mirrors that reflect what we desire or fear within ourselves. Through this lens, jealousy becomes less a threat to friendship and more a pathway to understanding our own emotional landscape. Over time, cultivating awareness of these hidden emotions fosters resilience and emotional sophistication in friendship. We learn to celebrate our friends' successes genuinely while maintaining a secure sense of self. We begin to see that their achievements, qualities, and experiences enhance the relational fabric rather than diminish our value. By bringing unconscious feelings into conscious awareness, we prevent silent resentment from accumulating and cultivate a friendship grounded in trust, authenticity, and emotional maturity. Ultimately, the silent presence of jealousy and comparison is a truth every friendship hides, yet it holds profound potential. These emotions, when acknowledged, reflected upon, and managed thoughtfully, guide us toward deeper self-understanding and richer, more empathetic connections. They remind us that love and admiration can coexist with vulnerability and self-reflection, and that the quality of friendship depends not on perfection, but on our capacity to navigate the full spectrum of human emotion. So, if you want to honor the hidden truths in your friendships, start by noticing the subtle pangs of jealousy or comparison that arise within you. Observe them without judgment. Understand what they reveal about your own desires and fears, and use that awareness to respond with empathy, humility, and conscious care. Because it is only when we illuminate these silent currents that friendships move beyond surface connection into a space of profound understanding, trust, and enduring emotional intimacy. Jealousy is not a betrayal. When approached with awareness, it is a teacher guiding us toward more authentic and deeply rooted friendship. Even the closest, most enduring friendships carry a layer of unspoken truths that quietly shape their texture, the needs, boundaries, and desires we rarely voice. We assume our friends just know what we require, or we suppress our own requests to preserve harmony, avoid conflict, or protect the relationship. These silent dynamics are perhaps the most powerful forces in friendships because they influence both satisfaction and distance without ever being named. Understanding and consciously navigating these unspoken needs and boundaries is essential to cultivating a friendship that is not only lasting but deeply nourishing for both parties. Human relationships thrive on a delicate balance between closeness and autonomy, care and self-protection. In friendship, this balance is often maintained silently through intuition, subtle gestures, or habitual patterns. We may unconsciously accommodate a friend's schedule, preferences, or emotional rhythms while suppressing our own. Over time, this can create subtle friction, resentment, frustration, or the quiet feeling of being taken for granted. Because these feelings remain unspoken, they accumulate invisibly, undermining connection without overt conflict. The irony is that by not articulating our needs or boundaries, we often unintentionally strain the friendship we most wish to preserve. Boundaries in friendship are not barriers. They are frameworks that define the limits of healthy engagement. They encompass emotional, physical, and psychological space, as well as the time and energy we can realistically devote to one another. Setting boundaries may mean acknowledging that you cannot always provide support, that certain topics are sensitive, or that you require personal time to recharge. The act of clearly articulating boundaries communicates respect for both yourself and your friend. It ensures that the relationship does not rely on silent assumptions, but on conscious agreements that can adapt as both individuals evolve. Similarly, needs in friendship often remain unspoken, yet they are deeply felt. We crave attention, validation, understanding, and presence, but may hesitate to express these desires out of fear that doing so is selfish, intrusive, or burdensome. Yet unvoiced needs can manifest in subtle ways. Disappointment when a friend does not call, irritation when they cannot accommodate your schedule, or withdrawal when support feels insufficient. Bringing awareness to these needs and communicating them thoughtfully transforms them from potential sources of tension into opportunities for mutual understanding and relational growth. The challenge lies in navigating these conversations without making friendship feel transactional. Articulating boundaries and needs does not mean issuing ultimatums or demands. It means creating space for dialogue. Simple statements: "I feel overwhelmed when I can't have a quiet day to recharge. I hope that's understandable." Or, "I would love if we could check in more regularly because it helps me feel connected." Convey both honesty and respect. They provide clarity while inviting collaboration, fostering a relational environment where both parties feel heard and validated. Emphasizing unspoken needs and boundaries also cultivates self-awareness. By reflecting on what we require and where our limits lie, we gain insight into our own emotional capacities and relational styles. We begin to recognize patterns: when we overextend, when we hold back, when we expect unspoken reciprocity. This awareness not only enhances our friendships, but also strengthens our capacity for empathy and understanding, allowing us to respond to friends' needs with greater sensitivity and care. Importantly, attending to these silent truths requires courage. We fear that expressing needs or setting boundaries will create discomfort or disrupt the rhythm of the friendship. But in fact, conscious communication about limits and desires builds trust. It signals that we care enough about the relationship to protect its health, that we are willing to be honest and vulnerable. Over time, this practice reinforces a friendship's resilience, creating a shared framework in which both individuals can thrive without sacrificing authenticity or personal integrity. Unspoken needs and boundaries also intersect with vulnerability, gratitude, and emotional awareness, the other silent truths we have discussed. They remind us that friendship is not a static state of comfort, but a living, evolving process. Each individual's circumstances, emotional capacity, and priorities change over time. By bringing awareness to what is often left unsaid, we ensure that the friendship adapts consciously rather than drifting into subtle dissatisfaction or unrecognized tension. Ultimately, the silent truths of unvoiced needs and boundaries reveal that friendship is as much about self-knowledge as it is about connection. By observing our own requirements, articulating them thoughtfully, and respecting the limits of others, we create a relational environment that is both honest and sustaining. A friendship that honors these truths is resilient, balanced, and profoundly enriching. A space where each person can grow, be seen, and feel secure in their value. So, if you want to honor the hidden truths in your friendships, start by reflecting on your unspoken needs and boundaries. Notice where you hesitate to voice what you require, where you overextend, or where you expect the other to intuitively understand. Then, approach these moments with intentionality. Articulate your needs with clarity, respect, and empathy, because it is only when we acknowledge and communicate these silent truths that friendships move from assumption to understanding, from quiet tension to mutual flourishing, and from ordinary companionship to a bond that is deeply sustaining for both hearts. Unspoken needs are not weaknesses. They are invitations to greater honesty, intimacy, and enduring connection.